Good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Laura de Franchis. I have the privilege of being your facilitator today for this event. So the session is about no-code tools, the new gold standard for owning the data cycle in anticipatory action. And so basically, we will learn more about no-code applications and how they can benefit humanitarian organizations. So I guess we can already start. Please note that we're recording this meeting. So I hope you don't have any issues. If you do, just let us know. And also, if you have any questions that come up during the panel, we're going to have a panel this morning. You can either put them in the chat, or at the end also we'll have a Q&A session. So then we can also go through these questions. All right. So the question that we have today really is about what is no code and how can it benefit basically nonprofit organizations, in particular in the context of anticipatory humanitarian action. So the idea is that after the session, you'll have a better understanding of the opportunities and the challenges of no-code applications, and basically get a perspective of how you could apply them in the humanitarian sector. And I'm very pleased to welcome today our diverse panel of experts. So they're expert in no-code. And so the first speaker, panelist, I should say, is Raphael Bonnaud. He's the CEO of Relief Applications, which is an organization that's dedicated to promoting innovation to the humanitarian sector. Then we have Arturo Garcia Fernandez. He's from the IFRC, so the Red Cross Cash Data Management Officer, French Red Cross Relief Focal Point, and he's using no code in the context of cash and relief operations. Welcome also to Arturo. And finally, we have Camille Gallet, and she's IM, so that's Information Management Expert at Relief Applications. So we have a bit less now than an hour together, and I guess we'll start exploring now what no code is and how it's being used these days in the IT sector and more broadly. And then we'll explore the opportunities for nonprofit organizations, and also we'll basically illustrate, hopefully, with a few examples so that it becomes more palpable. So again, feel free to put in any questions and in the chat or for the Q&A later. And if you have any questions now, let me know. Otherwise, we can kickstart the presentation, or the panel, I should say. Any questions? Raphael, can you tell me if there's any questions at this point? I can't see all the screens at the same time.
No, there are no questions on the chat. There are some people joining. Keep on joining, but there is no questions on the chat.
Okay. Well, welcome to those who have joined us. Should we start then? Yes? Okay, right. So, Raphael, let's start with you. So you're the CEO of Relief Applications. Can you please enlighten us? So what is exactly no code and how is it being used nowadays?
Thanks a lot. So no-code application, actually, it's kind of it's an old concept that is becoming more and more present in the environment of technology. So no-code application, it's just a software development practice that makes the abstraction from the software development and the programming language. And it's really a simple visual way of developing application or software or systems without the need of using IT languages and programmatic languages to develop applications. It's quite old, and even in the humanitarian sector, without knowing it, we use no code since a very long time. For example, when we build data collection tools with Kobo Toolbox or Open Data Kit, for those who know these applications that are quite broadly known in the humanitarian sector and promoted by the United Nations. But what we've seen, like 10 years ago, no-code application was really a niche in the technological environment. And then Amazon started launching like no-code for infrastructure. And when they started to launch no-code for infrastructure, it was a revolution, and nobody was doing that. And they totally made the abstraction between the server and its utilization, its usage. And more and more, and now today, 10 years later, or like 12 years later, no-code infrastructure is becoming the norm, and everybody is doing it. But in the software development, this trend is yet to happen. We can see a lot of tools developing and a lot of tools being created, but it's not yet here. Today, we still, when we need to develop systems, when we need to develop software, there is a natural tendency to think, oh, we need a team of IT experts. We need developers. We need engineers. But the problem is this costs a lot of money. I always take this reference, a recent survey from Salesforce saying that more than 75% of nonprofit organizations do not have a consistent data strategy and do not have enough software in place to manage their data strategy. But at the same time,
75%.
More than, I think the exact figure was 76%. And more than 70% do not have the resources to handle the data management system. Because today, when we want to hire developers, IT engineers, it's extremely expensive. Worldwide, there is a massive shortage in IT resources. It's just because every organization, every government, every private company, they need to map out their processes, to set up software, to just do their daily work. And they need developers, engineers, and the number is not growing that fast. So there is a massive shortage, and prices are going up, and there is a tension in the market. So for humanitarian organization, and especially small to medium-sized organization, it's extremely difficult today to just catch up with the work. And I'm not even speaking about innovating and developing new systems, but just being able to go through the normal digital transformation. Because now we want to create software for all our processes, from data collection, data storage, data visualization, and touching at the whole range of the work we do in the field in the humanitarian action and development sector. When we look at beneficiary tracking, monitoring and evaluation, human resources, administration, logistics, etc., etc. And there is a real tension. And so that's why today no-code applications are becoming more and more interesting for organizations that need to develop tools in the field to perform the action, but that also do not have like the resources to put like sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars to develop a system by themselves. So I would say in a nutshell, that's kind of the broad picture of no-code applications.
And thank you, Raphael. I understand that you're saying basically that nonprofit organizations currently, they don't have resources, but can you give us an example on the no code, really maybe beyond the humanitarian sector? Because I think we're saying that it's not being widely used yet in the humanitarian sector, but beyond, like, what are no code tools being used for?
So right now, beyond the humanitarian sector, in no-code applications are used for more and more processes. In the private sector, for example, we see like a lot of example of no-code application used for content management system. For example, when you want to build like your just website and you want to display data. We see also a lot of no-code application being used by universities when they want to set up like a system to clean the data, to analyze the data. Or we see more and more like a no-code application used for just mapping simple processes in human resources or in finance and administration. So basically replacing like this developed software to map their own processes with no-code application. So today no-code application, it's still used for developing like a small system when there is not an equivalent of, I will say, software as a service platform. So you will see, for example, like many organizations, they will use like a system like Salesforce, for example, on the CRM, but they might also use at the same time no-code application to map out smaller processes and systems in the organization.
Okay, so if I'm understanding this right, you can use no-code applications or organizations that are currently using it are doing it when there's no big system that responds to their needs, and they need something. They need to develop something themselves, and they don't have any IT developers, basically.
Yeah, I think you're pointing at something when you say when a system do not respond to their needs, and that's exactly the thing with no-code application, that it's allow any organization to develop something that is really tailored to the need. And what we realize that the need of organization are really complex. And today there is not one system that fits all needs. It doesn't exist because every organization is becoming more and more specialized in the way they work, in the way they report, in the way they understand all the processes. And that's the whole interest of no-code application is really to be able for the organization to own back their processes and develop exactly the tools that respond to the need. Because too often is what we are seeing still to date, organizations have to change their internal processes just to fit the tools that they're using. And if they're using, I don't know, sometimes they're using even tools like a simple tool like to manage their processes or their human resources, and they adapt the human resources processes to adapt to the human resources tools they are using. As with no code, because the organization can develop, modify, and adapt the tools themselves, then they can just map out exactly the way they want to work.
Wow, sounds like it's even a tool for social innovation.
It is.
Okay, great. Okay, well, thank you for that presentation, Raphael. We have with us also somebody who's actually already using no-code applications in his work. So, Arturo, you're working with International Federation, the Red Cross. So, in your role there, how do you use first of all, what do you think are the opportunities and benefits that that no-code applications can bring? And maybe if you could illustrate with some examples of how you are actually using it.
Yeah. Hello. So I think if I can come back to a few ideas that Raphael was talking about. The idea of no-code is that the potential of no-code, of using no-code applications, is that it's good for our field teams because they don't need to have any particular expertise other than knowing exactly what is it that we are trying to do in the field. So as Raphael suggested, even if for me it's the very early stages of the no-code idea, tools like Kobo Toolbox, for example, have this in their basic way of working. They have the no-code idea behind. So the usual things that we have with the field teams is that they can design their own forms when they are going to do an assessment, for example, in the field. And they can build the assessment form themselves because there is the possibility to create the form using visual tools. No, so you can take a question and then you can add it to your form, and you don't need any particular skill. You don't need to know how to code. You don't need to know anything. You don't need to know even Excel. You don't even need to know. You just need to know to be more or less aware of how the internet works on a usual website. So for me, when I say that that's in the first stages, is that I think we have a long way to go still, and we can at one point in the future, I hope we will be able to push it forward, and we will not stay only at the stage of creating a form, which is very basic. And we will be able to use no-code also to go through the whole data flow, if you will. So from the data collection side, creating the form, to the end side where we could be able to just visually, with some kind of no-code application, we will be able to decide what is it that we want, how to analyze the data and how to present it. Because right now the tools that we have, maybe, I don't know, Tableau, Power BI, things like this, even if it's not programming language in itself, you need some kind of development awareness. You need to know what you are doing, and you need to know how to use it. It's not, you really need to be trained specifically on those tools to be able to do it. So from that point of view, I think while we are in the first part of it on the data collection side, in the main, most of the time, we are still a long way to go on this development of no-code idea for the whole data flow.
Okay, so you're saying that at least in your work, you're already using it for surveys, and you see that there's more opportunities also, let's say further down the line in the in the data analysis, also visualization. Yeah, because Tableau is a great tool, but indeed you need to you need a lot of training and expertise to be a master Tableau. I don't know how they call it, no, black belt. So
even other tools like you know, there are other platforms, like in my expertise area, distributing cash. There are other platforms that you can use to you know, manage your beneficiaries and have your whole data management of your program. And even in that part, the difficulty we face is that you really need to be trained on that. So again, it's not particularly, you don't need to be a code developer, you don't need to know C or whatever, HTML or whatever, but you really need to have specific trainings on how to use the platform. If you have your platform and you want to change a new report for a new donor or something, or just to send something to the donor, it's either you know how to do it or you are not able to, and then you will have to ask someone to do it for you. With the idea of developing, I mean, the no-code idea could be just you go to the platform and somehow you know, you move your boxes, and then you are able yourself to decide which kind of report you want to create from your data, and then send it or use it for your own analysis.
Wow, that sounds exciting. Arturo, thank you so much. Now we have also, I'm very happy to welcome Camille. In your role, I guess you're dealing with data almost every day, no, as an information management officer. So how do you see the risks maybe associated to no code for nonprofit organizations? Because you know, we all think about big data companies, and so if all of this data will have to be stored somewhere, and so what should we be aware of in terms of no code applications, and you know, how can we maybe also mitigate those risks?
Thank you, Laura, for your question. That's a very important question because humanitarian workers often work with very sensitive data. So it can be anything linked with medical information or GPS information that we are collecting. So this is very important. Just like any other option, no code has to be. We have to think about many different aspects. We have to be aware of the technology providers we're working with, the service quality they're providing, the security, of course. But having said this, we have to bear in mind that no code, as part of the digital transformation of an organization, can be, as Arturo and Raphael said, it can be part of the entire data cycle and the data flow, which stores in one place rather than a bunch of different places the data. So for example, if you're having a solution that provides you with both the data collection, the data analysis, and visualization, all of this information is stored in one place. If we think about how this is being done in many cases, for example, for beneficiary registration, some people are still using forms rather than a digital solution. This can lead to data records being lost, or data records being, how would you say it, manually entered wrong, and having duplication of data, which is a big problem that we have in the humanitarian sector. So no code and all of this, although it has risks just like any other solution, all the benefits really outweighs all the risk. If I may add also in terms of time saved efficiency, that's a big important point that we have to put forward, because no code allows us to allocate more time somewhere else. It is also a big thing for our accountability towards our beneficiaries or towards our donors. Yes, I hope I answered the question all right.
Yeah, thanks. I was also, so what I'm hearing basically is that no code applications offer basically the benefits of digitalization, but that also they offer, in addition to that, maybe in some way additional security also, because the data doesn't have to go to be stored somewhere else. Is that correct? That you can control where the data is stored and who has access to it?
Yeah. If I can respond to this one, just to
Yes,
jump
sure.
on Camille's point, sorry, sorry, but it's very important what you are bringing, like the inherent data privacy and data protection and all the security around the code application. And just an example, I find it very interesting. No code application, like other applications, are not inherently more secure or safer. Are not.
No, okay.
It's the same, basically. At the end, it's still code, and but what we've seen, and I'm taking an example. We just did a data security assessment in an organization, and they were collecting the data in one tool, and then they needed to analyze the data in another tool. And to do that, because they didn't know how to modify the system they had to make the bridge between the two tools, they had to take the data. They were taking the Excel on their computer, sending it to a colleague with email, and then taking this Excel and putting it in the analysis tool, which means that the data of thousands, and we are speaking about tens of thousands of beneficiaries, and there were people like really at risk, were just transiting, no encryption, no
Not anonymized, nothing.
Nothing. Anonymized through people's computer, an email to dear blah blah, please can you analyze this data, and an Excel. So anybody accessing their computer, their email, just had access to all the information about beneficiaries. And just because the tools they were using on both ends for data collection and analysis were very safe and secure, but the whole middle, and just because they didn't know how to modify the tool. Code applications are not safer, but because people, they know and they can modify by themselves, they can avoid all this, these shadow areas where you have some beneficiary data handed on USB stick still, or just on the plain email. So this is, thanks a lot, Camille. I think you are bringing a very interesting point, because this is the reality of the humanitarian work today. Like beneficiary list on shared by email or on USB stick are still the norm.
We've seen that, yes. Okay, so what you're saying basically is that the no-code application in itself is no more or less secure than any, but it can allow you to have a more secure process because you control all the steps, is what I'm understanding.
Exactly, because for many organizations, sometimes when they know there is a vulnerability, they will need to go to their developer or to their IT team. Sometimes they will need to go for a tender or an RFP to be able to modify the system or find a solution. But with no-code applications, they can do it themselves. And it's way faster. And sometimes you avoid a lot of vulnerability. I know organizations today in the United Nations system with known vulnerability, and they're not able to fix it because it's too long to fix it.
Oh, okay. And any other points that you'd like to raise? Any of you regarding the data privacy issues and the security risks, or so in that sense, then, I mean, this sounds very, very exciting in the sense that this is it's something new. It can be beneficial for data collection, for data management. These applications also allow us to make savings, or not to more than make savings, maybe not spend too much, and also to manage the process. So now I guess the next question is like, what needs to happen for this to become a reality, like across nonprofit organizations and also in humanitarian organizations. And this, I guess, is for all the panelists. So I don't know if who wants to start. Maybe I see Arturo, you just unmuted yourself.
Yeah, but I'm honestly not sure I have a good answer here. I think it's a very difficult question, to be honest. In particular for my context, in the sense of the Red Cross. Yeah. I think we are going to face this issue with capacity building, and it's not going to be easy to, because in a way what we are trying to do here is to change the paradigm, no? We are trying to change the way we work from one way of working to another one, and it's going to be difficult to get people moving in this new direction. So I mean, I guess doing this kind of thing that we are doing now, trying to share the message, trying to exchange the ideas, it will help everyone in the organization to start knowing the concept and what the advantages are. But honestly, I think it's going to take some time. I don't think it's going to be difficult to have it in the short term. So I don't know.
What are the challenges that you see? You say a big organization. I also have experience, with United Nations and this type of organization. And yes, they're very skeptical with regards to innovation. I mean, not saying it in a bad way, but they like standardized, proven methodologies. Is that also the case? Is that what you're referring to, or
I think in a way, so before I started working on this humanitarian sector, I work in the private sector, and for me, the situation, especially, I mean, the main issue here, as I see it, is a bit different for big organizations and for small ones. For big organizations, is that I think we have the tendency to say, I prefer to give money to, external provider, and then they will take care of it. It's easier for me. I don't have to train people. I know someone is going to do the forms for me or the analysis for me. I don't have to think about long term. It's a more short term solution. And then for small organizations, the thing is, again, if I picture myself as a volunteer for the Red Cross in a local branch, then my issue could be some of these tools could be helpful for me, but then it's either I take it personally to train people in my local association, or it's very difficult to spread the message and have everyone behind me to do it.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of.
I think that though the idea is there, we talk about the no code more and more, and I think really in the midterm we are moving towards having no code more and more in our daily work. We have to keep going and insist on it. We don't have to let it go. I don't think it's something easy to. You see the advantages when you talk about it. You see why it's powerful, but it's very difficult to then move forward and start using it and start changing the way of working to move into this idea.
Right. And I guess, I mean, this is the type of thing also where you can make use of early adopters, no? I mean, just showing how it works. And then it's like the new whatever, when people have a new gadget and some people say, oh, wow, that's nice. Where did you get it? Oh, well, this is a no code application.
No, I agree. This is the kind of thing where you have some organization, some communication with a nice experience, you are doing a program somewhere and it works and you see the advantages of it. Then that's, I think, the way forward, at least part of the way forward could be or should be that kind of communication, having some early adopters and have some communication on it so everybody sees the advantages.
Right. Yeah. But what do you think, Raphael?
I think it's a vast subject, but I think Arturo is bringing a very interesting point, and if I can go even a bit further, there is a resistance from the organization. The way we behave as organization is a medium or big organization. It's a behavioral change to say, okay, we are going to own back our processes. It's not just another. It's not a delegation of responsibility to IT department, to an external provider to say, okay, I need something to do my work, so I need to do a process, to analyze my data, to deal with a process, so I need a system. The natural behavior is to delegate the responsibility to somebody else, another external party. Very often it's the IT department or an external provider. And I don't have the responsibility. And as we know, for big organization, responsibility avoidance it's a big issue. And with no-code application, you give back the responsibility to people to map out their processes. So in fine, at the end of the day, it's faster, it's more agile, it's way cheaper for the organization, and even for the end user, it's way better because he owns back his processes. But there is a big behavioral change. Also, what we notice is one of the main limiting factors as of today are still IT departments, because there is IT departments in big organizations, and it's a trend, and they recognize themselves. They need to understand what tool are we using, how how are we working within the organization, because shadow systems is it's a major risk. The system that is developed by one person somewhere, nobody knows how it works. It's a major risk for the organization, for the reputation of the organization, for the data privacy. So IT department are right to try to put controls, and so there is also on their side a big shift to give back to project manager, program managers the capacity to be able to work on their own system. So the limitation is come with a normal need of protection of the organization, but at the same time there is a conflict. We need to protect the organization, to protect the reputation of the organization, while at the same time no code is a new paradigm, to take Arturo's expression, is a new paradigm to give back to project manager, M&E officer, logistic officer, all the people that are actually doing the work, the project work, to give them back the power of developing their own application.
Wow. Okay. Thanks. So where we have basically two kind of big ideas of what needs to be done. Like one, focus on early adopters, identify those, and then also, I guess, from what I'm hearing from you, also get into dialogue with the IT departments to also convince and maybe understand and see how to overcome their fears and their resistance. Camille, I mean, your experience, I mean, if we're not necessarily only talking about large organizations, right? There's also smaller organizations where staff actually can maybe, bring in innovation. And there, then the question becomes like, what would it take, do you think, for M&E officers or other IM managers to actually get on board with these applications and maybe start showcasing them in their organization?
Exactly. I think that's another very good point. I think the IM officers and any person in an organization working with information management has to be the driver of change in their organization. It could be through creating catalog of possibilities of what's possible to do with no code, because the possibilities are endless. It could also be to start doing more trainings on those kind of tools and how to use them. And I'm thinking not only trainings at HQ levels, but also at field levels, at the smaller level where the actual activities are going. So it could be at the people who are starting the data collection on the field, the volunteers or anybody working with the volunteers or training the volunteers. So I think investing in training would be an important point and a role that IM has to create for themselves.
Great, thank you. Okay, and so I mean, do you have? Let's go like a wild guess. Like, when do you think that this will be a reality? Arturo was a bit kind of, let's say, conservative, cautiously optimistic. So when will we be seeing no code applications like widely used in the humanitarian sector? What do you think is possible? Let's be optimistic. Raphael.
I think if we look at, for example, if we compare to what happened with the infrastructure, like servers, it took 10 years. It took Amazon to do it. With their power, I'm not defending like Amazon as a company, but for their cloud services, it was a revolution. And I remember 10 or 15 years ago when we were speaking about putting server on the cloud, decentralized servers, there were massive resistance, and we said, no, we need our servers in-house. And obviously, and every argument on earth was taken to say, we need to keep our servers. And it took 10 years. And today, having on-premises servers like to keep doesn't exist anymore. The concept, I mean, is very rare for organization, even the biggest and the oldest organizations. And it took 10 years, and it took like big actors. And today, because everybody's doing that, and all the big actors in the IT sectors are just doing only that, today it's a norm. And today, having like an on-premises server, it's not the norm anymore. It's a niche for very specific application. And I think this trend is going to accelerate, and it's going to accelerate for one reason: is the driver. I think the change is not going to be driven by humanitarian organization, even if it's more agile. It's going to be driven by the market. No-code application are number of applications. You can see them emerging every day. They are better and better. And I think the cost of developing a tool will be more and more expensive, and it will take more and more resources for organization. So you will have a push, and I think for once the push is going to be from the small organization in the field, like South organization with very low resources. Today, like some small organization in country with low-income countries, they cannot develop, but they still need systems. They still need to implement programs. And I think the push is coming from bottom up, and it will trickle up, if I can use
trickle up. The famous trickle up effect.
Exactly.
Okay, great. Yeah, so a bit like also, I don't know why, but what comes to mind to me is like the mobile phones, no? Like they had a big development in countries where there were no fixed phone lines, and so like you kind of skip a step in the process or in the history.
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly.
Well, thank you very much. That's it for the questions that I had for the panel. But I see that we have, participants in the room. So if you have any questions, please feel free either to write them in the chat, or even better, to turn on your camera, raise your hand, and we can have a conversation. Please, I can't see the chat, Raphael, I'm sorry. It's somehow, if you guys have it.
Oh, sorry, I was muted. Yes, I have a chat, and no question in the chat right now.
Okay, so anyone, questions? Johan, please, yes.
Hello. Many thanks for all this presentation, and I got a couple of questions.
Can you please introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm an independent consultant for a non-profit organization, not only on the humanitarian side, but also in financial inclusion. And I'm pretty interested in the no-code tools approach. And so my first question is, which no-code tools are you mainly working with today, or you would recommend organization to work with? And I've got two other questions. The second one is, how do you handle the maintenance of these no-code tools? Because you can have one person in an organization that is very interested to bring that, but as you know, that the resources can move, and how do you ensure resilience of the no-code tools that are in place and the maintenance of these tools? And also, I've seen with some projects, the complexity is not only the tool, it's a complexity to formalize and modelize the process in order to get the right tools. So is it a myth that the organization can be self-autonomous with the no-code tools? Or in fact, they still need, I see the value added is really in the ability to formalize and modelize the process in order to get the right tool. So I would be glad to have your feedback on those questions.
So three questions. Yeah, thank you. All right, so maybe let's start with the first one. So which no-code tools are you using? Was that the first question, Johan? Did I summarize
correct.
it?
Exactly.
Right, yeah. Anyone?
Okay, I can start. I can say for relief applications. But actually, I think I will answer the first one and the last question on the complexity on processes, speaking about what tool we are using. Because on no-code tools, you have a lot of tools. For example, if I look at, as I was saying, like the old tools, the first, I will say no-code in the humanitarian sector, Kobo Toolbox is good for data collection, or when you look at data visualization, Power BI, actually, it's a no-code tool, and Tableau, and we all use that. But what we realize is the big problem for no-code is to capture the whole data cycle. And so, for example, we use Art. It's a no-code application that has been developed for the humanitarian sector. And the advantage of this tool that is it map out the whole data cycle from the collection, the storage, the visualization, and the analysis in one tool. And we use this tool just for one reason, is because it has natural bridge to other tools. So for example, you can still use Covo Toolbox to collect your data and connect it to the tool. So then you can store the data in Art, you can analyze the data. And let's say you want to do very advanced data analysis and you need to use Python as a language because you want to do advanced statistical analysis, or you use SPSS, you can directly connect. So for us in Relief application, we have this approach. To use no-code application, we use Art as a main no-code application to map out the whole data process. And then when it's needed, because organization culture, like I was working recently with a Red Cross organization in Sub-Saharan Africa, they use Covo Toolbox for years and years, and they know how to use it. So there is no point of changing, but we need like a continuum. And the continuum we use as a no-code is Art to map out all the process and the data structure. And I think this is a big complexity with no-code, because no-code doesn't mean that you should stop thinking. No-code application is a way of developing a process. It's a way of developing the software that map out a process for you. But you need to understand what is your process and to think about the process. And I'm always taking this example. When you make a survey, you can use any tool to create a survey for you and to put it, even Google Forms. Okay, but you need to think about the questions. So using Google Forms doesn't make the question for you. If you ask stupid question, you will have stupid answers and you will never be able to measure a good indicator. It's exactly the same with no code. If you want to have a good process, if you want to have a good indicator to analyze and visualize a good indicator, there is a need. And I think there is a need to still bring this expertise. The no-code application, I think, is just a way to work faster and just to focus on where people are very good at in the humanitarian sector, is understanding what we do and bringing this expertise. And then the no-code application is really just a tool to create a system that will reflect what we want to do.
So it's actually a stimulus to continue thinking.
Yes.
Good. Okay, Johan, you also asked a question about the maintenance, but before we get there, do you want to, maybe add another question, or are you satisfied with the answer? Basically,
yeah, sure. Thanks. So I understand that you propose your own platform, and you do not recommend the organization to go with off-the-shelf tools like I don't know, Airtable, Notion, Make, Zapier, this kind of thing, because there is the need. There is the need for the advisory services behind the tool.
Yeah. So no, I'm not recommending. First of all, Art is not our own platform; it's another platform that we use, and because it's license-free, so that's why we use it for the humanitarian sector, because I think it's important. I think Airtable is a good option. One of the limitations we found with Airtable is because it's a static web database. The problem is the interconnection with data. But I think I will strongly recommend Airtable for simple one application type of work, because it's I mean, the user experience is extremely good, and tools like Zapier are really good at interconnecting tools. The main limitation I found with Zapier, just to go in bit details, is because you have to interconnect tool, we a bit fall back on this whole thing of, I will send my data through an email, and then I will have Zapier take this attachment and put it somewhere else. And sometimes this is kind of the problem we face in data security safety. But both of these tools are very good tools, and I think we need to promote the usage of no-code, whatever the tool. I think it's good to have the tool that have the capacity to bring the whole data cycle within one tool. But I think like connectors like Zapier are really good to connect tools and to develop quick applications.
Okay, thank you. And what about the maintenance? Have you answered that question? Not yet, no? How do you maintain the systems? Arturo?
Yeah, so again, but it's actually coming back to something that Raphael said before. actually, at least the tools that we have nowadays, like a cohort or something, there is the organization is already. There are different possibilities. So, for example, with Kobo, you have this server maintained by OCHA, and you don't have to worry about the maintenance. You just need to worry about the usage itself. So that I think the way we are actually working right now, and the way things will work in the foreseeable future, at least, is that for these tools, there will be if the tool is well. I mean, if the tool fits the purpose, I think we will always find a way for UN or some organization to somehow host or give the possibility to do it. In the old days, when we didn't have Kobo and we had BodyK, there was not a server available, but you could do it in your own computer, and you could do it on your own without any maintenance per se. So I think the way we are working on the development companies, or I mean the technology world is working nowadays, will help us find a way out of this if there is a tool that we would like to consider and take. Now, that doesn't mean that, I mean, we will still have the second part of it, that is, we will have to train our field teams to use the tool itself. So that's never going to disappear, It's just that the idea with this is that you make it easier, and you don't need to have like a long trainings or recurrent trainings because you have a lot of turnover, and then you have to, train your team again. It could be more user-friendly in a way, more a natural way of working. So the maintenance in terms of capacity knowledge or knowledge of the tool would be easier as well.
Johan, is that what you were thinking of?
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Julio, you just turned on your camera.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I have one question. It's for all of you. Is that I'm thinking that, for example, Kobo Toolbox, that is a tool that we have mentioned several times in this conversation. Yes, this tool is quite limited in terms of analysis and visualization capacity. I mean, do you think that this is an aspect that needs to be addressed by a new generation of tools, of no-code apps, to be as simple as, for example, Kobo Toolbox is, but also offer more depth in terms of analysis and visualization? And do you think that there are already products out there that are fulfilling this, that are offering this?
Thank you, Julio. So, is there better than Kobo?
Maybe I'll take on that one. I'm using Kobo almost every day for my work, so I know it very well. It has its limitations and its strength. In terms of, as you said, analysis and anything beyond just the data collection part, Kobo is pretty limited. On the Kobo account, there is an automatic, very poor analysis that is being done. If you want to have your own analysis, you would need to download the data and then use Excel or any other software to do the analysis. Of course, there is, and also Kobo Toolbox has been used for a long time now, so there is a need for refreshment and something new that could incorporate, as we have mentioned throughout this whole call, the entire process, the entire data flow, which would include the data collection and the analysis and the visualization, which is useful for every actor that is involved in the process. So it goes from the person who is collecting the data to the person who is actually visualizing
You got it.
the information. So it could be the donor, it could be the partner who is working on the project, or it could even be the beneficiary. And this increases the accountability for all of those actors. I think there is also applications. We have talked about ORT, which does this and includes all of these aspects into one. Another important point that I wanted to mention that I thought about is that there's new applications that allow projects to be linked. This means that, for example, if you're on the field and you are doing a data collection for household registration, and you have to come back because you have to do a random selection of the kids under 5 for a malaria testing, and you have to come back to those same households, but you have to link those two information together. So you have to come back to the information you collected in the first place. With, for example, new applications, you can do this, and you can interconnect the information. And this is very important because often we are doing this, and this is the entire thing that I was talking about before, the duplication of data. This is allowing to create a single index between the household number, for example, and the household members that are inside of it. I don't know if that was clear.
Thank you. Julio?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, great, thank you. Okay, so I'm looking at the time. So we have 5 more minutes. So if there's any more question, I guess we have time for one more question, and then perhaps we need to close. Time flies.
Already, I had a question on the chat. Maybe I can read it
Yes.
from Hugo. Hi, everyone. Can we use no-code application builder to build M&E or case management systems? Thanks.
That's a very specific question. Who wants to take that one?
Actually, for M&E, I think we can. And case management, I think as well, but it's more difficult, and it comes back to what just Camille said, where, you have the linkage between one form that you did or one survey that you did to a household before, and then you link it to the next one. Case management is a bit particular. I mean, it's a different kind of data management. It's like the next step, no? So you have to, there are other considerations just you have than just having a household in the database or a certain list of questions that you ask your household. They need to be able to follow up. You have to be very clear on what is it that you need to follow up on the household, how often you're going to go back to, in a nutshell, what I'm trying to say is that you need very clear on what you mean by case in that. So it's very specific to your own sector and your own activities. So is it possible to do it? I think it is, but it's more complex because there are all those relationships also regarding time with the same household that you will have to consider. So it's not easy to do the relationships, and in an ad hoc manner. You have to be very clear on what is it you are looking for to be able to build it from scratch, let's say.
Yeah, and I think if I can just follow up on your point, Arturo, this is exactly, and I think it's really echoes like the question we had earlier on the complexity of the process, and because with no-code application, yes, you can build like any system because it's just an abstraction from normal code, so you can build case management. But what we know is case management is it's really complex. How you link the data, how you follow up the data. So with no code you can do it, but that doesn't remove the need of having like thinking about what system do you want and how is it supposed to work. How do you link and record like a single household and single beneficiary and community together? How you come back? So no code application actually will, as any application, even when you code, you can build your case management system or your M&E system. But the big question behind this system, especially in case management, is complex. That how you need like the information management, or the expert, the consultant coming in with the concept to be able to explain how is it going to work. And I was saying, like, we are exiting the golden age of developer to come to the golden age of information managers, because you will need all this understanding to be able to build the application that works, actually.
Thank you. Any last words? We have 2 minutes, so we're perfectly on time, but any last words before I close the session? Raphael or Arturo or Camille?
I think we need more sessions like this one.
You need more sessions like this. Okay, great.
Yeah. We need to spread the message. I think we need to do more things like this so we can talk about these topics, It may not be something that we can get anything out of it like tomorrow, but if we don't start doing it, it's going to take even longer. So we need to keep communicating and talking about this topic.
Excellent. Yeah. Thank you. Because I mean, we've reached now the end of the session. So we hope you enjoyed it. Basically, just in a nutshell, what I'm taking out of this session is really that no code application is something that has started and will probably likely develop much more in the future. It's a tool that these are tools basically that are of lower cost, so maybe easier to adopt from a financial perspective, at least for a humanitarian and nonprofit organizations. And the other advantage is also that it allows the tool, the no code application fits the process and the organization, rather than that the organization has to fit in a box of another standardized software. So I see that as also a lot of potential for innovative processes that can come to life thanks to this. It is, however, not to come to Johan's point, a solution to stop thinking. So you do have to think about your processes, and and no code applications will actually maybe help in that organizations continue thinking and don't just outsource the thinking to other organizations or softwares. And how do we get there? Well, maybe by again doing more of spreading the word, finding early adopters, and trainings. So there you go. Talking to the IT department is something also that I probably is something that needs to be done to understand, what is keeping IT departments from the no code applications. Voila. Merci beaucoup. Thank you, everyone, and have a great day. And I hope you enjoy the rest of the sessions today.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Thanks a
Bye.
lot.
Ciao. Ciao.
Bye.
Have a good day.
Yeah.
Thank you.